Think twice before you speak, because your words and influence will plant the seed of either success or failure in the mind of another. A very famous quote by American author Napoleon Hill. I Very good evening, fellow Toastmasters, dear guests, and distinguished Toastmasters. I am Sandeep Pandey, the member of Toastmaster Club of Pune Southeast since January 2020. I welcome you all to the third session of Five Pillars of Public Speaking. Today's session is all about how to speak to the point, and I know all you must be excited to get more knowledge from this session. Therefore, without further delay, I would like to call forward Toastmaster Govinda. Toastmaster Govinda is a software developer by profession. He is currently working with Cognizant. He's been into Toastmaster journey since 2016, and he served Toastmasters Club in various capacities. He was the area director for the area D5 during year 2018 and 19. So let's put your hands together to welcome Toastmaster Govinda. Govinda, over to you.
Thank you, Sandeep, for that introduction. I hope you guys can see me. Thank you, Sandeep, for that introduction. Can you start my presentation, please? All right, I'll start the session. Meanwhile, you get ready with the presentation. So, good evening, everyone. I know that it's been a Sunday evening, and thank you so much for taking your time to come for the session. Today, we are going to speak on something that is very essential and pivotal, that is getting to the point. Because in life, we'll not always get time to elaborate on what we are trying to say. There are many a times we get opportunities which are rare, and we have to be very particular. So today I will try and tell you how to get to the point from my own experience. I am not going to teach something, or I'm not going to give you some secret mantra for doing this. All I'm going to speak about is today about a mindset change. How a small mindset change can help us be more particular, can help us be more precise. That is going to be the whole premise of the session today. Now, certain ground rules I want to lay down before we start the sessions. This session has to be interactive, because if I speak for 1.5 hours, you'll probably be asleep. So, in order to make the session interesting, I will need your participation. We need to be more interactive. I'll be opening the floor for interactions, for question answers, and that is when I would need your esteemed participation. And if you want to make a point, or if you want to raise a question, you can use the Zoom option of raise hand. The Zoom master will help me identify you, and we can make your point, ask your question. And there would be instances where I'll be opening the floor. That time you can unmute and make your point. So these are some of the ground rules that I want to lay before I start. So I think we're good. Let's begin. Next slide, please. So this is the agenda for today's session. First, we'll speak about why do we need to get to the point, first of all. And second, then we'll speak about how to get to a point in a speech, evaluation, table topics, and in miscellaneous scenarios. Now, for the non-Toastmasters or people who are aspiring to become Toastmasters, I might speak in Toastmasters references about a technique that I'll be speaking about, but the skills that we are applying today are transferable. That means that you can apply it to any scenario. It need not be that you can only use this while writing a speech or while doing a public speaking assignment. It can be used anywhere. And for the uninitiated, an evaluation and a table topic. So evaluation is something when a speaker speaks and a Toastmaster goes on stage and gives his own perspective of that speech, whether what the speaker did well, what the speaker improved. You can compare it with the feedback that your managers might give you as a part of your performance review. It's something of that sort. And table topic is an impromptu speaking session where you're giving a topic and you have to speak for 2 minutes. That is a table topic. And miscellaneous would be covering the various office scenarios that we usually come across. And how do we get to the point then? So that is the agenda for today's session. Next slide, please. Now, this is the pivotal question. Why get to the point? Now, as I understand, I have my own reasons, but since you guys have also joined this session, you must have your own reasons about the importance of getting to the point. That is why you joined this session, to understand more, correct? So I would like your participation. I would like someone from the participants to tell me why is it important to get to the point. Anybody can raise their hand on Zoom and we can unmute and let them answer. And if people don't participate, I'll start picking up people. That is how I.
Pulkit
Yeah.
had raised.
Sure. Please unmute
Nobody
Pulkit.
has raised their hand.
Pulkit has raised his hand, so let us unmute
Yeah,
him.
so good evening. So
Yeah,
it's
good evening.
important to get to the point because so that the conversation or the speech should not get lengthy, or it should the motive of that speech or conversation should not get lost in transit. So
Correct.
if we go round and round, the person who is listening to us may lose interest as he
Correct.
doesn't know what we are speaking about.
Correct. I completely agree with you, Pulkit. So it is very important to convey our purpose, right? What we are trying to say. So agreed with you. Anybody else? Yes, stages.
We should get to the point quickly, otherwise, as Pulkit already said, we will lose the attention of the person whom we are talking to.
Mhm.
And rather than beating around, it's good to finish the conversation as quickly as possible so that the person in front of you takes you seriously first.
Correct. So to establish credibility, you are saying, right? You want to establish credibility. That is why you have to be very precise. Agreed.
Yes.
Hari Kumar.
We have limited time in our speeches. If table topic 1 to 2 minutes and the prepared speeches 5 to 7 minutes.
Correct.
If we end up, explaining about what we are going to speak, what is our main point, and we end up telling about what we are going to say, at the end we won't have time to say what we are going to say. So we will be a loser, even though we are prepared well. At the end, we will be a loser. So we should be on to the point and finish within the time.
All right. Very valid points, Hari Kumar. I completely agree with you. So at the end of the day, even if we are prepared, if we are not ready to show our preparedness in terms of our performance, it doesn't count. Completely agree. Anybody else has anything to say, or we'll move on? Velachi, please monitor the participant screen to see if someone else has raised their hands up, or we'll move on. One second. Yes, Usha ma'am.
Hey, Govinda.
Hello, ma'am.
This question, why get to the point? I think nobody has the time to listen to anything that you beat around the bush rather than go directly to the crux of the theme or the topic that you're going to speak on, so that you retain the audience's attention there.
Correct. Completely agreed. So we will see this with an example. So next slide, please. Yes. So as I agree, as you all must agree, right? Advertisement is an industry where getting to the point is the bread and butter. So I have two ads here, which we'll play one by one, and then we'll have a discussion that what did you understand from the ad, and we'll see and we'll analyze whether they were to the point and why it is important. So I have two nice ads. These are very famous, so you must have seen them. So Velachi, can we play the first ad, please?
Yeah, sure. I think I have a problem. 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. Take it. If you want, you can even stop the screen presentation and go to the browser.
Can you see this?
It's loading for me. Yes.
और अंकल क्या चल रहा है? डॉक्टर आजकल चल रहा है सोचिए मत क्योंकि बिना गैस वाला फॉग ही है इंडिया का नंबर 1 परफ्यूम बॉडी स्प्रे
Thank you, Velachi. We can move back to the presentation. Now, can anybody tell me what did they get from the ad? What was the message that they got from the ad? Anyone? This is a very famous ad.
Even on your deathbed, you'll think of fog only. The perfume.
Exactly. What else did you guys find? This is a very famous cheesy ad. In fact, when I have to bore people, I just say what's happening. When the people ask me what's happening, I say fog chal. But end of the day, what is happening? Are we getting the right message is the question. So I need people to be interactive. So anyone who has not answered yet can please share their opinion about what they saw in the ad. Or else I'll have to start picking names. Samruddhi, what did you say? Yeah,
Monu,
Abhinav, yes.
Govinda, Monu want to say something. Monu Sahu.
Yeah, sure. Please unmute them.
She can unmute herself.
Can
Monu, you can unmute.
Monu, can you unmute yourself?
Or
She is unmute actually.
if she's having problems, she can put her opinion in the chat. We can then move on.
Monu, you can write in chat box. So Govinda can answer to your question.
Yeah. So
We are not
anybody
getting
else
your
wants to
voice.
say something? Anyone else wants to say something? Okay, so I'll start picking now. Samruddhi, what do you think of the ad?
Hi, Govinda. Good evening, all.
Yeah, good evening.
The Fogs ad was really to the point, I would say. That he asked,
Okay.
"Kya chal raha hai?" and he just replied, "Ki fog chal raha hai."
All right.
Instead of thinking about anything else, and he could have asked other things as well. So he
All right.
just.
So
like
my
they-
counter question to you is, if you know nothing about fog, okay, based on this ad, would you buy the deodorant?
No.
Yes. So that is what I was coming to. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Samruddhi, for your answer. Shriram. Shriram, you can unmute yourself and put your opinion. Okay, so we can then move on. So what I wanted to say from this ad was, if you knew nothing about fog, would you buy this? If anyone says yes, they can just put it in the chat box if they would buy just based on this ad. I personally wouldn't, because for me it completely missed the point. I don't know what fog does. What is the advantage of the fog deodorant? Why I should be buying it? What is the price point? Instead, these all expensive minutes of advertising are wasted on cheesy humor, which sticks to my tongue and I can use it in my conversations. But ultimately, it doesn't end up in increasing sales of fog, for me at least. So this was the first ad. Now the second ad is also something similar, but of a different proportion. So Velachi, can we play the second ad, please?
Yeah, sure. One second.
Yeah.
मोबाइल इंटरनेट में इंडिया कर रहा है दुनिया पे डेटागिरी जियो इंडिया नेटवर्क जुड़ा देता अरे धन डाउन कर लो खुशियां सारी ओ आया जश्न का अब मौका नेटवर्क जुड़ा देता अरे धन डाउन कर लो खुशियां सारी जोश लो बैठे अगर मेरा सुपर
So let's get back to it. Now, I would like to ask everyone, what did you get from the ad? Balaji, can we put back my presentation, please? Anybody? Usha ma'am, what did you get from the presentation?
I think this is the ad of the previous IPLs, not the current IPL.
Correct.
So I think that Deepika is a very famous personality, and her involvement or her to show that all the teams are one at the end of the day. I thought because everybody came together in that. It was not one specific team. All the teams were there in that. And if
Okay.
Jio is promoting it, Jio got
Okay.
their
Promote. But if you knew nothing about Jio, would you buy a Jio SIM card based on this ad?
no.
All right. Anybody in the audience would buy a Jio SIM
I would
card?
rather watch IPL because of this.
Agreed. So, anybody in the audience would buy a Jio. Anybody would buy a Jio SIM card based on this ad?
I have a point to make over here, Pulkit here.
Yes.
Definitely, we won't buy a Geo SIM after watching this ad. But then, what I feel that this ad was introduced on the television after Geo had already entered into the market and people had started queuing outside Geo centers or Geo retailers or Geo dealers. So Geo was already a known this network service provider in the market, and then they introduced Jio Dhan Dhanadhan that in 99 you can get free access to many of the apps. So people already knew about it, that what's going on this Jio Dhan Dhanadhan. So it was not new for the people. So that was something I was thinking about.
Okay. But my whole idea is that even if people knew about it, so a lot of brands that we see on TV are brands that we know about. But why do they still advertise? The reason is because the product that you're trying to say or sell should be in the minds of people. You are trying to send a message across. Now, in both the ads, what was the common theme? That we were not getting to the point. In the first ad, when we are talking about the deodorant, it didn't speak about what the deodorant does for me or why should I be buying the deodorant. It depended on cheesy humor. From the second ad, in my opinion, I saw that it was just a splurge of money to show that we are sponsoring the IPL, we can get the stars dancing to their tunes. But what was the advantage of Jio in doing that? Of course, Jio was known. So are the other service providers. But what was the message sent? There was no message sent across. In the chat, also Sriram says yes, there is no direct message of Jio in this, and that is the whole premise of today's session. Get to the point. Even if you get so many people dancing to your tunes, ultimately, if you don't send a message, whatever hype you have, like Jio had, would be short-lived. Because once they starting charging people, they lost a lot of subscribers, and today Jio is just a secondary SIM for internet basis for most of us. So that is the purpose. So these two examples were to show that why is it important to get to the point. Next slide, please. So why to get to the point is these three areas: to ensure that the target audience is engaged, to ensure that your target audience gets the message that you're trying to send across, and your objective is fulfilled. So when you're giving a speech or when you are giving a session, if you are not to the point, the purpose of your project is not fulfilled because your message is not going across. Your target audience is not engaged because they are still confused about what you're trying to say. And in the end, the whole activity that you're trying to do would not be a success. That is why we need to get to the point. And that is why you people have taken this time to come to this session on a Sunday evening, because we all know the importance of getting to the point. So today we will be ensuring, or we will be looking at the mindset that we require to get to the point. And we will start one by one. So next slide, please. So I will start with how to get to the point in a speech. Okay. So during my session, you will find that most of my activities are concentrated on this part, but the skills, as I said, that we will apply here are quite transferable to other aspects of Toastmasters as well as the other scenarios we face in our day-to-day lives. But we will be practicing the key concepts here, and in between it might get a bit technical because I would be introducing some terms that are introduced to us by Toastmasters International, and at that moment it will be technical, but I'll try to keep it as interactive as I can. But for that, I would also need the audience's support to answer when I ask. So with that in mind, let's start with how to get to the point in a speech. So next slide, please. Now, speech purpose. So I would like to ask everyone, so when you write a speech or when you decide to give a speech, what is the first thing that you do? Anybody?
Deciding a topic.
All right, deciding a topic. That is the first thing that you do. And Karishma, once you have decided a topic, what is the next step that you do?
What will my content be?
Correct. What will your content be? Okay. Thank you, Karishma. Anybody else has a different answer from this? What is the first thing that you do when you
I think the objectives of the speech is the first thing that I will look for. What are the objectives of my speech? And
Correct.
then I'll look for a topic based on those objectives.
Okay. So you will first look for the objectives and then the topic. Agreed.
Yes.
Thank you. Anybody else has a different answer?
Objective and takeaway would be my.
Okay. You will be first looking at the objective and then the takeaway that you can give. Agreed. So this is where we come to the concept of something that Toastmasters has defined as speech purpose. So my reference today is this manual, the Competent Communicator Manual, the older manual, and especially Project 3 from the manual, where it defines the speech purpose. So while you are deciding to give a speech, as Usha ma'am said, it is very important to understand what the objective is. Because I can pick a topic and I can give 10 variations of it. Any topic. I can pick a topic like cooking. I can inspire using cooking. I can persuade. I can inform. So I can do a lot of things. So the first thing important is to understand the objective. And as someone else said, be absolutely clear about the intent. So we don't, even if we pick a topic, it is not just randomly, I'll speak on this. There is a personal connection to it, right? We always pick a topic because we know about it or something has happened that has inspired us to take up that topic. So you have to be very clear about the intent of your speech. And the other thing is the takeaway, as someone said. Think about what your audience should remember from the speech. So if I'm giving a topic, I am giving a session, like today's session also. So I will obviously think about that after my session, what should my audience remember? That should be a key component. So based on that, you can then, this applies a natural filter and then you can trickle down your content and write accordingly. So next, please, Velachi. So hence, this is defined as a speech purpose, the intent that you have and what you want to give to the audience. So Toastmasters has formalized this into two things. One is the general purpose and second is the specific purpose. So these are technical terms that I will get into in the next slides. So next slide, please. Now, what is a general purpose? It is a broad intent of a speech. That suppose I'm giving a speech topic on, say, that how I learned cooking. So there is an intent behind it that I might want to tell the audience how I learned cooking and how easy it is for everyone to learn. That might be my intent. So, and most speeches, most intents fall into these four broad categories. It might be to inform, to persuade, to entertain, or to inspire. These are the four broad categories that usually general purposes fall into. Now, for example, to inform would be that when you're trying to inform the audience of something that they don't know, that is, you're conducting a training, or you are trying to tell about a new skill that you learned that the audience might find interesting, or you're trying to add to the audience's knowledge. So, for example, everybody knows about cooking, but you're trying to tell about a new dish that they might not know. You're trying to add to their knowledge. So that is inform. So broad examples of it are any trainings that you do in offices, or you conduct a training session, that is that comes into this category. My presentation of today also comes into this category, that is to inform. Now to persuade. Now to persuade is when you are trying to change the audience's behavior, or you are trying to convince the audience of your own viewpoint. For example, a campaign speech, an election campaign speech is a very good example of a persuasive speech, where you are trying to influence the audience to vote for you. Or when you're trying to make a point, or when you're giving a very passionate speech about why you took a particular action, you're trying to tell the audience that please listen to me, this is why I did it, and please agree with me. That is the persuasion. Now to entertain, this is when you're trying to be humorous on stage, or when you're trying to tell a folk tale. So an entertaining speech might not be an all-out humorous speech. It can be something different also. It can be a wonderful story that you narrate, like your grandmother narrates folk tales. That is also an entertaining speech. So to entertain, a general purpose can be when you're trying to just purely engage the audience and entertain them. And to inspire is when you're trying to preach or be holy. For example, you are trying to say that this is a person who overcame all these adversities, and since he could achieve that, why can't you? That is when, is it realistically achievable? I don't think so, but it is ideal. So when you're being idealistic, that is when you are inspiring. So these are 4 broad categories. So when I said earlier that I can spin a topic into these 4 categories, I meant it. So now I will pick one topic that is very clear to everyone, that is cricket. I hope everybody knows what a game of cricket is. Now I can tell you how I can fit this particular topic, cricket, into these 4 broad categories. Okay. So when I want to inform, okay, about cricket, so I think everybody in India knows what cricket is. So in order to inform them, what I would tell them is, I would write a speech about the unusual laws of cricket. Like, for example, mankading, or when the helmet is behind and if it hits, there are 5 runs awarded. So not many people might know about that and the reasons behind it. So when I'm informing about cricket, I might give a speech about the various unusual laws. Now to persuade, there is this climate of IPL going around, everyone interested in T20 cricket. I might want to persuade my audience to watch test match cricket. That can be a persuasive topic just on the basis of cricket. Now to entertain, I can just speak about my own failings with the cricket game, or a nail-biting thriller that I saw. That can be a nice storytelling adventure, and it can be nice entertaining speech. And to inspire, I might pick a cricketer's example like Virat Kohli. I might say, look at him, how chubby he was, and now how he is. And why don't you get inspired when he can do it? Why can't we? That is again an inspiring speech. All 4 different general purposes based on just one topic, that is cricket. Hence, it is very important when you pick a topic, understand the objective and see which, according to your objectives, which of these 4 general purposes fit. And based on that, you spin your topic around in that narrative. Now, it is possible to have many general purposes in a speech, but given the time frame that we all have, it is advisable to pick only one and continue along it. So I know this is quite technical. So at this point, if anyone has any questions, can please raise their hands on Zoom and I can accommodate the question here. I'll wait 30 seconds for that, or else we'll move on.
Govind, one question from our side. This is Abhinav.
Yes.
So, yeah. What is the difference between a persuasive speech and an inspirational speech or a motivational speech?
See, to persuade is when you're trying to change a person's opinion, and it is very achievable. When I'm telling you to vote for me, you can vote. Okay, it is very achievable. It is very simplistic. Or there are 2 kinds to it. Persuasive is when I'm trying to influence your actions. Second is when I am trying to tell you about my opinion. I am trying to tell you to agree with it. So these are 2 persuasive. To inspire is very high level. Okay, it's like Sandeep Maheshwari. He tells things that it is possible. But is it realistic? I don't think so. So persuasive speech is a realistic example where you can see the action in short term. Whereas inspirational speech is something that you might get in the long term. That too, if you follow the right path. That is the difference that I believe in a persuasive and an inspiring speech. By the way, we have a whole session on how to persuade with power by TM Samit Das in this whole session as well, in this series of sessions. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah. Anybody else has any question, or else we can move on.
Govinda?
Yes, ma'am.
See the story, the topic that you chose about cooking.
Yeah.
I think we can have all the four general purposes in that one speech, right?
We can have, but it is not advisable, because you might have for general purposes. General purpose is very broad. I'm coming to something that is more specific. So when you're thinking about this is like a theme of your your speech.
Okay.
If you have 4 different themes, you will have a hard time justifying those themes.
Okay.
That is why it is advisable to have only one theme for your speech. So the general purpose is like a theme of your speech. I hope I answered your question.
Adding to DTM Usha's what the point she raised, even I was thinking the same thing. That, for example, Gordon Ramsay in cooking, he is entertaining, and he also informs us how to cook and everything. So, I mean, multiple purposes definitely could be met in a if it is done in the right way.
Because the introduction could be something where you talk about cooking as a profession or something. The body of the speech could be entertaining. You tried a new dish, how it failed. So that, and then in the end is don't follow me, but get inspired by cooking. That could be. So you've already
then
taken
again, the entertaining is the medium. It is not the general purpose. For example, I'll come to your example.
Okay.
So as you said, I can persuade someone with humor, right? But just because I've used humor, it does not become entertaining. The theme of my speech is to persuade. That is my top point. I am using humor as a medium. As you said, Gordon Ramsay, he uses humor as a medium, but he informs. Entertainment is just like a added bonus, but it is not the crux of his operation. The crux of his operation is to inform. And that is what the general purpose is. It is the crux of your speech, the theme of your speech. You can use humor, you can use persuasion in an informed speech. No one stops you. But again, the crux is the general purpose. So I hope I have made the point clear. I think we can move on. Yes. So the next slide, please. Now the specific purpose, it is like your general purpose is like theme of your speech. Now the specific purpose is something that you want the audience to take away. Now our founder Ralph Medley has said that a speech without a specific purpose is like a journey without a destination. And I completely believe that, because in a speech you're making a lot of points, but the audience won't be able to remember all of that even 2 days after your speech. But if you are able to make that one point that can stay with them throughout, that is really achievable. So that is why a specific purpose is that one sentence that the audience should remember after your speech. It can be a call for action, a social message. It can even be a pun that you made throughout your speech that might click when something happens in front of them. So to define a speech purpose, a specific purpose, we can just do a simple small exercise. So you just have to think from the audience's perspective. So after my speech, I want the audience to just complete this sentence. So after your general purpose is defined, if you complete this sentence, then you know what you're looking for. So, and the clear attribute of a specific purpose is that it should be realistic and attainable. Like after this session, I want the audience to understand what a general and specific purpose is. This is realistic and attainable. After this session, I want the audience to master the general and specific purpose. Not realistic, not attainable. So then when you have these two reference points in front of you, that is your general purpose and your specific purpose, they act as a natural funnel. So when you're thinking of your topic now, referring to these two purposes, automatically your mind channels in a way that you will be comparing everything you write with these objectives. Whether are they matching, are they not matching? Are they adding value, are they not adding value? So for the earlier examples that I took of general purposes, with the topic cricket, I also have specific purposes written. So for example, to inform my right, that I would inform about new laws or unusual laws about cricket. What could be my specific purpose? After my speech, I want audience to remember my speech whenever an incident of mankading happens. So for the uninitiated, mankading is where a batsman just steps out of the crease while the bowler is delivering the ball and you just stump him out. So yeah, so whenever that happens on TV, my speech should have something that he should remember me. That is a specific purpose. That is realistic. That is attainable. Now, second is to in the persuasive part where I told that I have to change behavior. That you watch test match cricket. So whenever my specific purpose could be after my speech, I want the audience to think about watching test match cricket when they are changing channels and they see a test match. Now here I could also say after my speech, I want my audience to start watching test matches. But this is not realistic, not attainable. Because no matter what I say, unless the audience doesn't do it, they won't believe in me. But I want to create that thought in their head that, okay, after my speech, they should at least consider watching a test match. So that could be a specific purpose in that case. Now in entertain, so I'm talking about humorous, right? So I speak about my failures with cricket, or I speak about a super over match, which I saw. So whenever there is a super over on screen, I want the audience to remember my speech and my story. That can be a specific purpose which is realistic. And finally, to say, inspire. Okay. So as I said, look at Virat. I want to give Virat's example and tell them to take fitness seriously. So after my speech, I want the audience to at least consider eating healthy. Again, the words at least consider are important because the specific purpose has to be realistic and attainable. We cannot say that after my speech, I want the audience to start losing kgs and start eating healthy. No, that is not realistic. Everyone has their own pace. They might not. But at least I should be able to put that thought in their head. That is realistic. That is attainable. So this is a specific purpose. A general purpose is a theme. The specific purpose is the key outcome that you want to achieve out of your speech. So these two things are key to forming that funnel that will allow you to be to the point. At this moment, does anyone have any questions? So we are going to do this practically also. So this is a lot of theory, but I have some things planned to put this in on pen and paper. So we will be doing that as well. I'll wait for 10 more seconds, and if no questions, I'll move on. I think we can move on. Velachi, next slide, please. So while writing a speech, define a general purpose. What do you want to do? Do you want to inform, persuade, entertain, or inspire? This has to be matching with your speech objectives if you're doing a Toastmasters project. If you're doing an office meeting, if you're conducting a training, then it has to match that objectives. Based on that, check if whatever general purpose you choose is in sync. And then you decide a key takeaway by completing the sentence. After the speech, the audience will just write that down. And once these two things are in front of you, then start writing your speech outline. Then start writing points that come to your head with regards to the topic, looking at these, and then review your speech with a friend, colleague, or mentor. This is very important. This is the most underrated part of this whole practice, but it is very important. Because sometimes we are having our own opinions and we might feel that a particular part is contributing to the whole purpose. But when you show it to someone else, you will realize that no, it is not. Because ultimately we are giving a speech to a diverse audience. Everyone has their own perspectives. So our speech should be appealing to majority of the audience. Hence, getting a second opinion is key. So this is a whole purpose or a flowchart that you can follow while writing a speech that might help you to be to the point. Now we have learned the theory. We will now put this theory into practice. So next slide, please. Yeah. So in this activity, what I've planned is I have picked a very old speech of mine. I have given this speech back in 2017. So in the next slide, I will show you the objectives of the speech. Everyone has to listen to that speech, and then we'll have a general discussion about, we have to identify as a group what my general purpose was, what my specific purpose was, what category my general purpose felt in, and did I also have a specific purpose. We'll be discussing on that and whether I was to the point. That is the whole objective. And based on that discussion, then I will move on to my own version of what I had thought my general and specific purpose was, and we'll see whether I hit the nail on the head or not. So this is the idea. I will be playing a speech now. So next slide, please. So the objectives I'll read aloud for everyone to understand. The objectives of the speech are to collect information about your topic from numerous sources, carefully support your points and opinions with specific facts, examples, and illustrations gathered through research. This is my CC7. I had attempted this in March 2017 when I was just new in Toastmasters. So this is an old speech. A lot of old timers must have been there live when I had given this. So a good trip down memory lane for all of us. So Velachi, can we play the speech? Yeah, it started.
That you was a gift from the Almighty. We prayed to God and He gave it to us. Fast forward to my biology lecture in 12th standard. The topic for today was human reproduction. And as expected, it ended up.
Oh, sorry for the inconvenience.
Our lecturer skipped most of the topic and told us what doubts at home. A few days ago, I had heard a conversation of my grandmother with my parents, where she was saying, nowadays they teach everything in school. Or referring a new segment on importance of sex education. But my teacher told me, ask my doubts at home. So this made me realize that both the parties want to push the job to one another. And in this way, my doubt, which I raised when I was 7 years old, remained unanswered. This must have occurred in most of you, right? Yes. What do we do? What do we do? We go to that one friend. That one friend who is always alone at home and has high-speed internet connection. He is a source of information. This is the story of every urban child about how he gets to know about the birds and the bees. The parents think that he will know, their child will know somehow, and so do the teachers. But resulting, the child learns from another teenage child instead of a responsible and educated adult. This does not seem to be a problem, but actually it is, and it is a big problem. The nature of this problem made me more inquisitive, and I started researching about what are the consequences of not being sexually aware, and the results were shocking. 1/3 of girls in rural India drop out of school due to taboos related to menstruation. Out of every 1,000 pregnant women in India, 63 are teens, a ratio which is double that of US, 3 times that of UK, and 8 times that of Western Europe. 53% of students of children in the range of 5 to 12 years have reported sexual abuse. These facts left me shocked. I suddenly understood that sex education is not only about understanding your own body, it is also a catalyst in solving these problems. Then the second question arises: why don't we impart sexual education with all vigor and enthusiasm? The reasons for this problem are many. We as parents think that sex education is obscene and it will corrupt our child. But sex education is not just about the act, it is also about the bodily changes that happen when you grow up. It also makes us aware of various STDs and sexual abuse. The second assumption is sex education is a Western practice. It is only needed in the West. We, with our moral values and our culture, have natural protection. And things like child abuse and teenage pregnancy are a myth. We are wrong. The facts that I said certainly prove that we are wrong. The third assumption is that men don't require sex education. Menstruation, women problem. Men, no problem. 61% of HIV/AIDS sufferers in India are men. In a survey of children who were sexually assaulted, 57% were boys and the rest were girls. This made me realize that sex education is not only necessary, it is also necessary for everyone. As we slowly realize that this is a problem, what can be the possible solution? There have been numerous attempts to introduce sex education in a curriculum, but our so-called protectors of Indian culture have prevented it from happening. It is sad that our legislators do not see this as a problem, and they see practicing yoga as a solution to all problems. Schools and colleges, on their part, have failed to spread awareness for issues such as these. And atmosphere at home is inconducive for dialogues such as these. If a child goes and asks such a question, he is deemed as corrupt and is reprimanded for asking such questions. As a result, the child turns to wrong sources to get his question answered. This is a serious problem. Of all my research, I can only say that the only solution is that parents talk to children regarding issues as sensitive as these. Atmosphere at home should be conducive such that if the child comes up with an answer, he can fearlessly ask anything what he wants. Last but not least, we as parents and future parents have a moral responsibility of kicking the elephant out of the room and being more open-minded for these issues. Awareness starts at home, and if we make our child aware, we would be doing ourselves and the world a big favor. Hope this is a great lesson learned. Over to the professor.
So I hope everyone was able to at least hear my speech properly. So now we'll discuss about what do you think was the theme of my speech, which category did it fall into, whether it was to inform, to persuade, or to entertain, or to inspire. And second thing that we can talk about is what was the specific purpose, what was the sentence that you remember from my speech and would be a takeaway. So anybody from the audience would like to chip in would be nice. So what did you think was the theme of my speech, and what was the key takeaway? Velaji, can we have the presentation back on, please?
Yeah, sure.
Right. So we'll start with Usha ma'am. What did you think? What was the theme of my speech? Hello.
I think the specific purpose of your speech was to inform. You can't hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I think the specific purpose of your speech was your research was your objective of the speech. You had to do a research on a specific topic. And
I think we lost you, ma'am. Maybe you can just type in the chat what you were trying to say. Yeah. So, anybody else would like to pitch in? Anybody? We need this session to be interactive.
Govinda, you were trying to inform about,
yes, Kevin, sir.
About sex education. And through your research, you were able to give statistics about child abuse, of teenage pregnancy. And you also told them that because neither the parents nor the teachers do give the correct answer to the child takes the help of Google and other sources for the information. So it is ultimately misinformation that the child has. And we need to step in and, as parents, tell the child at the appropriate time what sex education is all about.
All right. So you think my general purpose was through research to inform the audience?
Yes.
Yeah. And my specific purpose was to tell the parents to talk to their children whenever it is appropriate.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin, sir. Anyone else has a different point of view or wants to pitch in, please? All right. Toastmaster Ashraf, what did you think was my general and specific purpose? Toastmaster Ashraf, you there? I can see you in the participant list, so I asked. Okay, can we try Usha ma'am back again? Because she was
Govinda,
trying
I think I'd like to say.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I think your specific purpose was to create an awareness in the public about sex education.
All right. So I have actually written down, so I can't see my presentation. So can we put my presentation back on, please?
And what better place than the school?
All right. So meanwhile, I'll tell you what my general or specific purpose was. So as Usha ma'am said, as Kevin sir said, so the steps that I might have followed at that point was, my objective of the speech was to present my research. So that naturally fell into the bucket of to inform, because if I'm presenting my result, I'm informing. So that naturally fell into that general purpose bucket. So my general purpose was to inform the audience about the current state of sex education in India through my own personal experiences. That was my general purpose. My specific purpose was, as Kevin sir said, to persuade the audience to please talk to their children whenever it's an appropriate time. So that was the whole general and specific purpose thing about. So this was, through my speech, I wanted to demonstrate that how a general purpose and specific purpose can be used to understand the speech. And if you do it rightly, the audience also gets the message that you're intending to give. So that was my whole purpose of it. So given that we have done that now, we will be moving on. Meanwhile, the technical issues are being resolved. So I had another activity planned for 5 minutes. The activity was that now, since we have seen and since I have demonstrated that through how do we do a general purpose and specific purpose, we can now put it to practice. So yes. Harold, can we get to activity 2 slide? Yeah. So to recap over what I told, the general purpose is like a theme of your meeting. The specific purpose is the key takeaway that you want the audience to remember after your speech. So you can just frame it this way. After my session, the audience should complete the sentence that is a specific purpose. Next slide, please. All right. So I remember the content. So the idea is to put this in practice. So what I want everyone to do is at their own end, write a speech outline on the topic Corona pandemic. This is a very general topic. This is something that everybody knows. So the idea is to write, firstly, decide which general purpose you want to achieve with your speech. I don't expect you to write a whole speech in 5 minutes. What I expect you is to pick a general purpose based on the topic. In what form do you want to shape the topic Corona pandemic? Define a general purpose and then define a specific purpose. And then just you can note down 1 or 2 points about what you would like to speak in your speech based on that. So I would like everyone to just take 5 minutes. It's 7 minutes 10 right now. You can just note down this and then we can discuss. We can have a couple of volunteers and we can discuss that. Harold, my slides are running all of a sudden. They've gone too far ahead. So I hope you guys got the activity. We will have a couple of volunteers after this who would be presenting what they have written, and based on that we push the discussion further ahead. Meanwhile, if you have any questions during this 5 minutes, that can also be accommodated. So if you have any specific question regarding the content that I've covered, you can just ask. Also, if you have any problems while defining the general or specific purpose, those can also be taken. 2 more minutes and we then start the discussion. Last 1 minute. All right. So anyone would like to share what they have written so far? All I expect is if you have defined your general purpose and what is your specific purpose. Anybody?
Yeah, Govinda, I'll try.
Sure, Kevin.
The corona pandemic started off in Wuhan in December 2019, and it was a new coronavirus, and therefore we
Kevin,
did
first,
not.
can you tell us what category have you picked? What is your general purpose?
Inform.
You are trying to inform. All right.
Yes.
And
yes.
the second is, what is your specific purpose? After my speech, the audience
should be able to persuade them to take action to prevent it spreading.
All right. Now you can go ahead with the points that you've written. Then we can discuss.
Okay. So it spread like wildfire and has affected more than 200 countries in the world, with death, morbidity, economic loss, suicides, starvation, and the migrants migration out of their place of employment. Now we come to that it is a new virus, and therefore it was very dynamic. Each day it was changing. So we really did not know, since we did not have any specific treatment, we did not know how to tackle this problem. And we had deaths, panic, and paranoia setting into the population. And this was something very similar to the Spanish flu that we had almost a century back. Misinformation, infodemics, the WhatsApp university, and everyone became an expert, including politicians. Most of the countries, we had politicians who used to lead the way, telling the public as to what to do, what not to do, and not the doctors and the medical advisors. And therefore, more misinformation came in. And the best example is Donald Trump, who said you could inject disinfectants to kill the virus. He also said that the vaccine is coming in October, so that in the November election he could win. And the quotable quotes of Donald Trump are very many, which I don't want to really go on to it. And therefore, ultimately, people went into a panic. There was lockdown, which extended for more than 2 months, and in the middle of the night, we announced in India lockdown. Migrants were stuck, not able to get back, and in the process of getting to their hometowns, lost life, died of starvation, and there was no means of transportation, and this was all totally mismanaged. Then we started off as to what to do with these people, whether to be admitted or kept home in quarantine. So there was a lot of information, and we had the WHO, CDC Atlanta, ICMR, and all these organizations which had to keep changing, going back on their statements. And so there was a lot of confusion. General public was lost. Ultimately, vaccine would take time, and it will be only in 2021, 2021 that we can expect some sort of vaccine to come, because we need to have adequate samples of testing before we say this vaccine is effective, and we still do not know what is the correct treatment for this virus. With all this backing, we still have to go back to social distancing, hand hygiene, and mask, which, if you see the Indian news today, we find people out in the open without using masks. There's no social distancing, and it's chaotic. So I won't be surprised if we have more deaths, more morbidity, and we top, like population, we will also top the world in this corona pandemic. So the take home is that we have to go back to the basics, that is hand hygiene, social distancing, and masks. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Firstly, I would like to ask you, did this approach help you? Like first you pick the purpose, then you define a specific purpose, and then you write. Because I found that your points were quite aligned with what you were trying to say. Like you wanted to inform the public,
and then persuade them to
yes. So
take action, and not to get carried away by misinformation that keeps coming.
Yeah. So your general purpose was to inform the public, and that also brings credibility because you yourself are a doctor, so you are the best person to hear from. So you played to your strengths. You picked the general purpose of to inform, and your specific purpose was to persuade. After my speech, the audience should be persuaded to play their part and stop the spread. And so following these 3 steps, you can easily funnel down, and because even on corona pandemic, we can tell a lot of things. We can speak about how people are being stupid. We can go in depth on that. But if you see Kevin, he was pretty concise on that part because his focus was on to inform. And that will naturally happen if you follow these 2 steps. First, define what you want to do, keep that in front of your eyes, and then start writing a speech. That ways you will be able to funnel down your thoughts and stick to the prompt. So this is what Stephen Covey calls it, and I have just borrowed it from him. It is called begin with the end in mind. It is one of the 7 habits that Stephen Covey says. So this is something that is applicable in speech writing as well, defining a purpose as well. Now Sriram has also written that his general purpose was to entertain. He wanted to humorously explain the new normal. Specific purpose was to understand the positive effects of corona, such as pollution rush, digital push. So he wanted he took a different approach to this topic. He wanted to entertain the audience, speak about a new normal. Naturally, we are working from home, so it is obvious that there are a lot of instances to tell. And he wanted the audience to remember that there is also a positive side to it, such as pollution reduction and digital push. So thanks, Sriram, for that. And I hope this approach helped you funnel down your thoughts. So if we have no one else, we can then move on to the next slide. So now this point can also be applied to other sections of what we do in a Toastmasters meeting or what we do generally. So I will briefly cover each of the other points because whatever we did here in the speech writing can be applied here. I'll just show you how. So how to get to the point in an evaluation. Next slide. So again, the general purpose of an evaluation can be defined. Evaluation, it is pretty simple. We are trying to inform the speaker about what things worked, what things need improvement. Specific purpose could be after the evaluation, my target speaker will. And for example, I can say after my evaluation, my target speaker will understand that his strengths are vocal variety and stage movement. He needs to work on his speech structure, and his speech would be something else. This is the summary part that we usually give in our evaluations, that is CRCS. So if we begin with the end in mind, even in our evaluations, we can be very crisp because a lot of times we end up trying to show that we are the better speakers and we don't stick to the point. The purpose of evaluation is to point out what was right, what could be improved, and in the end to benefit the speaker. Hence, when you think about an evaluation, you can also use this approach. The general purpose is pretty clear. The specific purpose would be after my evaluation, the target speaker will complete the sentence and you have a very nice blueprint for your evaluation. So this approach will help you give concise to the point evaluation.
Govinda?
So yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'd like to speak about Kevin's speech.
Yes, sure.
Kevin's general purpose was to inform the audience about the coronavirus and the action, to be taken.
Correct.
But I feel that in between these two things, he could have used some personal examples also.
Yes.
If you want to convince your audience, if you want the people to take action, you need to say what action you took.
Agreed. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt because it's just 5 minutes. So in 5 minutes,
No. What I'm saying is that, like you want me to take an action, you want
Correct.
me to do something, so you tell me what you did so that I can also do that.
Correct.
If it's a speech, I think to take action, you need to say your own example also, your own action, what you took.
Agreed. Point taken.
But I got very good research, Kevin, you did.
Yes. So coming back to the evaluation part, this is how you can actually give better evaluation by just beginning with the end in mind. Think about your target speaker, that after the evaluation, your target speaker should be able to complete that sentence, and I think you have a nice blueprint. Next slide, please. How to get to a point in a table topic. Now, this is very tricky because this is the most difficult part, I feel. Even in speech, you have time to prepare, but in a table topic, you don't. So next slide, please. The very simple thing that you can do is make a point. So in an impromptu scenario, we are trying to tackle a lot of fears. Firstly, we are astonished at the fact that we are supposed to answer this question. A lot of thoughts are coming in our head, and hence the best way to be concise is by making a point. So for example, if you are asked that what is your favorite holiday destination, you might speak about my favorite holiday destination is Goa because I like the beaches there. I like ABC there. But ultimately, as an audience, what do I have in it? That is what I have to think. So if I speak about Goa and the beauty that it has and why I enjoy it, the audience would say, okay, well done. But what does the audience get out of it? That is where the next point comes in. Next, please. By making a point, you are giving the audience something, getting the audience involved and giving them something to take away. For example, if you twist this again, what is your favorite holiday destination? My favorite holiday destination is Goa because I like the beaches. I like the whole vibe there. But again, instead of speaking about how I like it, I tell the audience what they can do there. So that is why, from my own experience, I can say that when you go there, you should try this A, B, C because this will help you make your experience more memorable. That way, you're trying to make a point that the audience can take away. And then again, in an impromptu scenario also, you can stand out. This is not easy. It is very difficult. It takes a lot of time to develop that sort of a mindset, but it is a mindset thing. Once you have a mindset of defining a specific purpose and defining a takeaway in whatever you do, this will naturally come. So this is one thing that we can practice in our table topics. Next slide, please. Now, this is my final thing, how to get to the point in miscellaneous scenarios. Next slide. So this is applicable to the new normal that we are trying to do, that we are conducting meetings, trainings, Zoom sessions, everything is online now. So it is very important to again begin with the end in mind. So if we are hosting a meeting, conducting a training, think about the following two things as I said. What is the objective of the meeting training? And after the session, the attendees should complete the sentence. You know what is your takeaway, what is your takeaway that you're giving to the session, and what is the objective of the meeting training will help you define your content accordingly. So when you are when you're conducting a 15 minutes meeting on, say, what we have worked on the last 1 month when in the office, again, then you define after the session, attendees should understand the importance of measuring the work that we have done and how the customer values are. That can be a takeaway. So when we define these two, we can easily define the agenda of the meeting that we are conducting, and we can easily funnel our thoughts and make the meetings more interesting. Similarly, if you are participating in a meeting, again, what is the purpose of the meeting? You have to understand that. You have to read the agenda, and then what is your role in the meeting, And if you raise a question or if you want to contribute a point, is that adding value to the whole purpose of the meeting? That has to be understood. This is very important in all hands meetings, because every time we see that someone just raises their hands just to be noticed by the higher management, that is, he's there and he's asking a question. But does that give you a good impression? I don't think so. How you can do that is by understanding what a purpose is. What is your role? What are you doing in the organization? And whatever point you are contributing, does that make sense given what the person is saying and given what the person is trying to convey? If you keep these three things in mind, I think you will be able to raise the right questions, be precise while asking your questions, and hence be noticed well in the meetings that we are trying to raise. So this is very important. So to conclude, I would say that everything that we spoke about was nothing special. It was just that it was a mindset change. That first you define what you want to do, and then you start doing. It is a simple mantra that Stephen Covey has given us. Begin with the end in mind. So with that, I would like to move on to the question and answer session. If you have any questions for me, now is the time.
I just have not a question, it's just a comment.
Yes.
In Malaysia, even table topics are evaluated. There is one table topic evaluator who evaluates all the 3 to 4 table topics that are done. Although I've been trying to tell them that we are basically encouraging guests and newcomers to speak, and that is the basic idea of table topic. And we should not have this evaluation because you discourage these
But
beginners.
this is happening now in most of the clubs, Kevin, even here.
I know. So I think the whole purpose is defeated. We are trying to encourage them to get over their stage fright, they come out and speak. So we should not have this evaluation, but it is there in Malaysia and even in Australia. They have this table topic evaluation, which I feel is basically defeats the purpose of the whole idea of having table topic. This is just my comment on as far as table topic is concerned.
And again, it begins with what is their purpose of doing that. We might think it is discouraging, but they might have a different mindset. But in the end, the reception of that will define whether they are achieving their purpose or not. That is what I would like to say on that. Anybody has any questions for me? If not, I think we are bang on time. We can then, is someone trying to say something, or else we can end the session? We are bang on time.
Yeah. Govinda,
Anybody
Amit
there?
here.
Yeah, Amit.
Yeah. So, for what is your suggestion for the new Toastmasters and a guest who is joining here? So, you are practicing for the last few years. So, what is your suggestion to the new Toastmasters and guest members on this topic?
All right. So, firstly, for new members, it is a very tedious task to define a topic, because that is something that I have observed, and you must have also observed, right? When you pick your first 2 speeches, you might think, what should I talk about? So that is where this approach comes into picture. So suppose you are on pathways, you are giving your second speech where you have to speak about anything. So what would you speak about? You would speak about something that you are good at, and then you pick a topic. A topic can be you're good at playing sports. Pick that. Then you see what can you do best out of that. Then this general purpose comes in. Can you inform? Can you persuade? Can you inspire? Or can you entertain? What is your strength? Pick that strength, and then write after the speech my audience should. Just complete that sentence and start writing. Once you write your speech, then work with your mentor towards fine-tuning it according to your purpose. This is something that I also learned quite late, because earlier I would also drift away from the point, because I would just pick a topic and start writing. Like I'll pick cricket and I'll start writing on cricket without knowing what I wanted to do with that. That is very important. So once you know what you want to do, then you write down, it funnels down, and it would be very easy. This is a mindset change. It takes time. So if you practice this rigorously for like 3 speeches, 4 speeches, naturally it will come to you. So the funnel will work, and you will naturally start writing points that are valid with your objectives. So that will come with practice. But if you practice this, I'm pretty sure it will help you. So this would be my advice. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thanks.
Govinda, Pushpa this side from Bhopal. I would like to comment something like it was very nice session, and very specifically you pointed out that there is ample information even if you choose any topic. But the important part is what we want audience to take away. If we remember that, so it will be easy for us to give only those specific things related to the takeaway. Because even I've done a lot of mistakes like this, as you said. We choose a topic, and if we research, there is a lot of information. And sometimes we just forget exactly what we want to give in that 5 minutes, 7 minutes. So wonderfully explained, and to remember the end as the beginning. Thanks for sharing.
See, that was my specific purpose. Begin with the end in mind. If you remember that, my purpose is achieved.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So you mean the audience should remember our specific purpose, not the general purpose?
Over time, I'm trying to say the general purpose is your theme. But if I tell you 10 points today, whatever I told you, if I tell you 10 points today, would you remember it after 7 days? But if I tell you something that is the crux of my speech, you would definitely remember it, right? Like begin with the end in mind. Even after 7 days, if I ask you what did I tell you, this would be the first thing that will come to your head, because it is very specific, it is very attainable, and it is very easy to understand. So that is what I meant. Because we as humans have very little time span, you won't be remembering whatever I say. But if I say something specific, something that is very easy to digest, something that is very important and is the crux of what I say, that is very easy to remember over a long period of time. That is what I meant by a specific purpose. That is what I meant by the crux. I hope I answered you.
Specific purpose, that means the whole brief of all our meetings where everything is there in that particular statement, that specific
It can be a summary, it can be a call for action. Like in Kevin's speech, Kevin was speaking about how Corona is creating a havoc. But his summary was how can we improve it. So that was his call for action. That is his specific purpose. He wants us to take cognizance and work on it. That is the specific purpose. So it is the key takeaway that you want to give, as I said, because we cannot remember the whole speech. The audience won't remember the whole speech, but they will definitely remember the key point that you want to give. So if it is the summary, if you're informing and you want the audience to remember your summary, that is your specific purpose. If you want to give a call for action, if you want to give a social message, it is your specific purpose. If you're giving an entertaining speech, your punchline could be a specific purpose, that whenever I see something, it might make me remember your entertaining speech. So that is what I meant by specific purpose.
The specific purpose should always be at the end of the meeting before 2 minutes. So last 2 minutes should have the specific purpose, right?
It can be even at the start of your meeting. It can even be at the start of the speech. You can say that I am saying that this opinion is wrong. Why? Let me explain. Give the whole speech, come back again. This is why I said that this opinion is wrong. That is a specific purpose. It is how to do it is a different session altogether. But the idea is your specific, but you have a key takeaway. You reveal it at the start, you give it at the body, or you use it as a conclusion. It is up to you. So it is nowhere related that it should only be in your conclusion. You can even start your speech with your specific purpose.
Thank you.
It is very much possible.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Govinda, once again, just one bonus tip if you can give, how to choose different objectives, if you can give something on that.
Different objectives, I think first we should research our audience. That is how you can pick your objectives. Because if I give a speech on a topic, a millennial topic, this happened with me. I gave a speech about how I wanted to go to a music festival and I couldn't. But the people in front of me were people who were not even interested in listening to me, because these are millennial problems. It is not generic. So that way, my purpose, though it was clear and defined, it failed because I didn't research my audience. So when we are picking a topic, we naturally have to research our audience. We have to see who we are talking to, what we are good at, and how it will be beneficial to the audience. That comes as the second part, and then the purposes come. So the bonus tip would be research your audience before you are deciding on a topic and a purpose.
Yeah, thanks.
Anybody has any other questions, points to make? Thank you, Richa, for that message. Anybody else has anything else to make, or else we can then I can hand over the stage back to the MC of the session today. Sandeep, over to you.
Thank you, Govinda. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for your kind participation. Means a lot.
Thank you, Govinda, for that wonderful, precise, content-based session. I think you really, hit the nail on the head, and you made us aware of how to speak to the point. And thank you, audience, for your participation, for your patience, and your, active participation. I would say. And just reminder for the next week session. Okay, please join at the same time next week. Thank you once again. Have a good day.